besides the extra padding that the goalkeepers have?
It has evolved a lot. And in a team, a goalkeeper is the most important person. They are unique, they are crazy, but they are the most important. If you have a good goalkeeper, they can win you a tournament. If you have a bad goalkeeper, then they can actually ensure that you lose the tournament. So it is very important to train a goalkeeper. And training a goalkeeper starts with the kitting. The kit is extremely expensive because the goalkeeper must be protected. When we tell people that the goalkeeper kit is about between 750,000 and $1 million, they don't believe us. But if you see the speed at which the ball is hit at the goal, you have to be properly protected to actually defend that ball.
At least I know when a ball is moving towards you at something like 160, 170 kph of impact, then you have to be properly protected. Now, when it comes to the kitting, then how then do you get this goalkeeper, as a goalkeeping coach, how do you get the goalkeeper to adapt to flexibility with this heavy kit that he's got to put, the protective gear that he's got to put on?
That is where you have now to adopt the training, the goalkeeper coaching techniques. And that is exactly what we are going through. It is no longer, the type of coaching that we used to adopt in the past, where you just tell somebody to stand in the goalposts and you hit the ball to him. No, there are so many things. So nowadays, you start by training a goalkeeper even before he goes into the goalpost. You talk to them, you explain to them what they should be expecting. And you take them through videos, goalkeeping videos, so that they can see. And then flexibility. There is a flexibility and there is strength. The goalkeeper needs a lot of strength, so that because they go, first of all, they are heavily loaded.
Yes.
It is like two players being tied together. So when they go down, and they frequently go down, when he goes down and comes up, he needs a lot of energy to quickly spring up. So that is a strength training, you see. Then there is flexibility, moving from the right to the left, from the front to back. That is flexibility. And then now psychologically, mental strength. There is the physical part, there is the mental part, then there is the technical part, and there is the technique. So the goalkeeper must be trained all round in those areas.
Well, I think the psychological part has to be there. Like you mentioned, they're crazy. I think who would, put yourself in the line of a ball moving at 100 miles per hour? And it comes now to the real technical ability at the stick, because at times the goalkeeper, as you mentioned, is also like the last defender on that turf. How much of the technical skills, when it comes to a little bit of the stick work, he's the only player who's allowed to kick the ball within the D, but how much of the stick work must a goalkeeper know today?
It is an advantage for him to at least be able to maneuver the ball using his stick. The goalkeeper is the only player who is allowed to save the ball with any part of his body, so long as it does not pose danger. You see, danger to the defenders. And several times he'll be called upon to use his stick. So definitely, eye on the ball and using the stick to pick that ball is necessary. So he must have at least some, limited, technical capacity of controlling that ball, deflecting the ball using the stick.
Moving on to an aspect now, it's an attacking aspect, but a very critical part of the game, the penalty corners system. It's changed now, defensively and also offensively. Let's start with what every coach across the country, in the school system or in any club, needs to know about the current penalty corner system. Let's start with the defensive part and then move to the offensive part.
Okay, defensive part. you must actually also have you know, a lot of intelligence about your opponents. You must know, like here we don't invest a lot on you know, the
Data collection.
So we have very little. But when you go to the West, they invest in that. Even South Africa invests in that. Egypt does. So that, you know, when by the time they are playing you, they know your best option, they know your second option. So when they are defending, they are very comfortable. You know, if you are defending something you don't know, and something that you are encountering for the first time, then the chances of you losing or your opponent scoring that short corner is very high. So when you are training, the first thing is you must, it's not an option now, you must have an opportunity at least to watch your opponents so that you know their short corner system for you to defend it effectively. And as you know, short corner is a very technical part of the game.
Yes.
And if you're properly trained, then out of every 2 short corners, at least 1 should be a goal. And there are some countries who are very good. Out of 2 short corners, both are likely to be a goal. So if you're defending, you must have a plan. So you must know. You know, most of the attacking teams will have 2 batteries. 2 batteries is a stopper and a injector. No, the injector is the one who pushes the ball. So there's one battery is a stopper and the guy who attempts to score, and there's another battery. So you must have an idea which battery are they going to use. If you have no idea and your first rusher aims at
the first rusher is the people who are inside.
Yeah, the defending team.
The defending team
yes.
are the ones who are with the goalkeeper
on the line. Yeah,
on the line,
on the line
running towards them.
Yeah, if now you must have an idea how they're injecting that ball and which battery actually is going to be used. Because if you are aiming at battery A and the ball goes to battery B, you see the distance. Switching halfway gives the attackers a big advantage. That is 1. 2, you must also be very clear to your first rusher. What is his aim? What is his objective? Is he trying to get the ball? Is he trying to delay the striker from striking, or what is he doing? And then there's a second runner and a third runner. And then there are others who are supposed to be guarding the post. And you know, you are only 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're only 5.
The others are in their own half.
They are in their own half. So and if in case you leave the line before the allowed time, that is an infringement. So that means you are checked out. So you join your colleagues on the other side. So instead of 5, you are now 4. So that is another disadvantage. So that defending team must actually be synchronized so that they know what they're doing and they know the system that the attacker is using for them to take, maximum advantage in defending. They must be brave because, also the speed at which that ball will be driven towards them, whether it is a drag flick or whether it is a hit or whether it is a set play, they must be aware of that, because either they are going to have a direct hit where they stop and hit, which actually most teams are moving away from, or they are going to use a drag flick, which goes at the speeds you are talking about, or they are going to use a set piece. A set piece is when you expect them to hit and then they don't hit, and then you are caught on the wrong foot, and then a very easy goal is scored.
Which means now even the goalkeeper has to be very alert on that.
Extremely alert.
And when you mention about now, because you've mentioned now all about how to respond to the defense, that's the defending part. Now let's talk about the offensive part, from the injector, the person who's taking the corner, to the 2 batteries, the people who are receiving and trying to score. How much then needs to be done to make sure that you get a goal out of every two corners?
You see, it is a lot. You have to do a lot. First of all, the injector. The injector must, must be trained to achieve two things. One, the correct direction. Two, the speed. Because if you don't get the right speed, the rushers will actually catch up with whoever is trying to stop the ball. If you get the right speed, then actually they are going to be caught halfway, which it gives the attacker more time, to get the ball into the goal. So that is one. Then the stopper, whoever is stopping the ball, must also master the stopping. Whether he's going to use a stick stop or stick stop, but with the hands. They must master that. Because if he gets the correct stopping technique, then it gives more time, to the striker.
Yes.
So that one must be perfected. Then, now to decide what to do with that ball when it is stopped in relation to where the rushers are. Because if the rusher is already on you, you are not going to drag flick that ball, or you are not going to hit, because he's already there. He will actually maybe stop you or deflect the ball or stop the ball, or it will be dangerous, and it will disadvantage you. So that is where.
And let me just mention that where you stop a person who's stopping the ball, because you either do it this way,
yeah,
and try push it to your hitter, then, or do it this way and now push it forward, push it towards the person who's supposed to strike the ball. How much of that coordination, knowing that you're using that extended, you're using the hockey stick, how much of that needs to be done to ensure that there's safety for the person who's stopping because he's in a squatting position, and the person who's going to strike it?
A lot. You have to train. You have to train and perfect the act. There's no shortcut. And whether you push the ball or whether you leave it where you've stopped it, it depends on it depends on different teams. Mm-hmm. Some teams you just stop the ball, you leave it, and the striker will deal with it. Some you can roll it a bit inside. But the most important thing is, first, you must be able to trap that ball. The injector must get the right speed, the right direction. Then, after that, once you've stopped the ball, then looking at where the rushers are, then you decide, am I going to drag flick? Am I going to play a set piece? Am I going to hit it directly? Then you decide. But even before making that decision, yes, you must have been training. So you train, and then you pick the best option. But also you must have options. You must have 1, 2, maybe and 3. So that if 1 is not working for you today, then you try 2. If 2 also is not working, you try 3. But what it calls for training, serious training.
Now, moving on, we've mentioned about penalty corners, because that's when an offense is committed, within the D, that's when it comes through. But then there is the case of the penalties in hockey. There is a flick during normal play. And now, if teams are tied and they have to go to a shootout, it's no longer the way it was where you take one at a time. You now have got to dribble around the goalkeeper and within a fixed time. Let's start first with how the flicks are taken, in normal play, and then the shootout system.
Normal play is just as you've said, is you are given a flick. It is you against the goalkeeper. The umpire blows the whistle, and you flick into the goal. If no infringement, the ball goes in, it's a goal. It goes out or is saved, there's no goal.
So then when it comes to the shootout,
yeah,
how the system that's there, yeah, is something that actually, even FIFA were trying to, rather than do the 12-yard kick, they thought, yes, why not go do a one-on-one with the goalkeeper? How much of a challenge has it been for players when it comes to this system?
To the new system, you also have to train because first of all, you are working under pressure. you are working under limited time. But you see, the ball is taken from, you start it from outside the circle.
Yes.
And you bring it into the circle. And you don't have to dribble, by the way. You can do anything with that ball. If you want to hit it, you can hit it. If you want to scoop, you can scoop. If you want to flick, you can flick. But what is required is also a lot of training so that you master it. If you don't, you know, the goalkeepers train to save it.
Yes.
And the takers must also train, you know, to beat the goalkeepers. So it is good, but still, you know, if there is an infringement by the goalkeeper, you know, it is the upgrade is the normal flick.
Flick.
Yeah.
So how much do you try, you know, get that goalkeeper to infringe so that you get the opportunity of a normal flick?
That is by chance, you see. It is by chance because the goalkeeper also knows. Yeah, the goalkeeper knows, and you are not going to keep on trying, because keep on trying and you are working under limited time, you know, you are bound to mess up. So you just play. You know, you just play what you've been training to do, and if there's an infringement, you know, and most of the infringement is if the goalkeeper gets out of the, one is when he comes out of, you know, the D, and then he uses his body to defend. That will be a straight flick. Or if maybe the goalkeeper brings down the attacker, you know, when he's already beaten, that will be a flick. But, you know, to plan for that is not easy.
And so it now comes in, that's the technical part of the game. Let's talk about umpiring. How much has the umpiring changed over the years, and what is expected, especially when you're going to play at continental level, for example, like at the Olympic qualifiers that were in South Africa, when it comes to, because at that point you're using the same standards that you'd expect at the Olympics. How has it changed?
A lot, because you know, the rules have been very dynamic. You know, we have the rules board, and because out of the situations, you know, situations which arise at tournaments, that is what they look at. Is there a need to change any of these current rules? And also national associations and continental associations can always, you know, make suggestions that we are not comfortable with this rule, or this rule has an advantage or disadvantage. Can we look at introducing this one or removing this one? Then the board, you know, sits and they deliberate, and you know, they also attend these tournaments, and they look at the tournaments and they look at the rules before a decision is made. And even when a decision is made, then the rule change comes in as a experimental rule change. And then once it has been played, the experimental rule change within acceptable you know, time frame, with different national associations, they also, and continental and tournaments under continental associations, then they also report back to the rules board before they either accept the change or decline.
And from the things that you're mentioning, it looks like information is everything to sport today. There was an article over the weekend about how data is important to sport today. In the process then, it means collecting data, archiving it. An entire institutional knowledge system has to be put up. What's being done such that even for, say, continental, if you're going to play against the Ghanaian police side, or you're going to play against Sharkia of Egypt, or any African club, then how much of the data collection is required?
A lot. You know, you must have the knowledge about the team you are going to play. You know, it's not like before that you are going to play, you just jump onto the plane and you go and play. You will lose miserably. You have, even if it's sending spies or getting videos of you know, your opponents well in advance, coming back, analyzing, you know, their system, and then now you can plan how to counter. Because what you are doing is exactly what they are doing.
Yes.
If you think they are not doing it, you'll be surprised they are doing it. So data collection is very important. And as I mentioned in the beginning, and you've also alluded to it, you know, information is power. If you don't have that information, then don't expect to go far.
Now, Colonel, one of the experts who's conducting this training is Mr. Tahir Zaman. He's an International Hockey Federation trainer and educator. He's from Pakistan. Kenya's hockey history has been heavily influenced by the way the game is played in the Indian subcontinent. But these countries have now moved to the European format. You've mentioned that. How different are they such that you now move from a format where, you know, where if you are really good at stick work, your nickname was always Sing, and now move to something close to what we see Germany and the Netherlands doing?
Yeah, now you see, you only use, you know, the stick work when it is necessary. Because we no longer play traditional hockey. You know, hockey has become scientific. And that's where the Europeans actually took over from the Asians. You know, the first thing which happened was to change the surface. Now, you know, playing on an AstroTurf is very easy, you know, stopping the ball and, you know, maneuvering. But traditional hockey, where you play on grass, you need to master the art of controlling that ball on grass. And that is where the Europeans actually never mastered that. But the Asians did, because they were very good at stick work.
Yes.
Now, fitness is paramount. You have to be fit to play on that ground, because the ground is heavy and the ground is synthetic. The ground is actually watered before the game, so to make it more heavy but safe. So it calls for a lot of physical fitness. When it comes to executing things like short corner, you know, you can actually perfect the art of converting the short corners, because the surface is smooth and there's no grass, there's no, you know, maybe the issue of, you know, the ground not being level and all that. So there's a lot of training which is required and a lot of fitness which is required. So that is why hockey has now moved from the traditional hockey, which actually was the baby of the Asians, to scientific hockey, which is the European introduction to hockey.
Kenya currently ranked in the world in the men's game, 48th in the world, 4th in Africa. The women's team is ranked 45th in the world, 3rd in Africa. And with this program that's coming in, what are the medium and long-term, you know, what is the medium-term outlook and the long-term outlook for this program, that when it comes to Kenya's ranking in hockey?
You know, first let's talk about how the ranking is done. You have to participate in tournaments for you to be ranked. If you don't, you see, let's take, for example, if our neighbors Tanzania make an effort to participate in 3 or 4 international tournaments, and we don't, there is a likelihood that when the rankings come out, they will be ranked on top of us, because you have to participate. Forget about winning first. You have to be participating in international tournaments, because that is where they know, first of all, that you exist. And then they can say how you've been performing. But if you don't, like I'll tell you how Ghana is now, Ghana ladies, women, are now on top of us because of their international participation. They have participated in more international tournaments than us. But now, the system that we are developing is a system that will allow us to develop our hockey from the grassroots. So definitely, we expect the team to improve, at least to come from one level down to a level up. But now, how do you now test this team that you've been training?
That would only be at international events.
That will be at international events.
So it's a case of no show, no prize, like they say in the golfing society.
Definitely, definitely.
Lieutenant Colonel Nashon Randiek, the chair of the Kenya Hockey Union, speaking to us this morning about a program that's been there. They're doing online instruction courses for the technical officials, the coaches and the umpires, and this is through funding from the National Olympic Committee of Kenya through the Solidarity Program, and it's being conducted by Mr. Tahir Zaman, who is an International Hockey Federation trainer and educator from Pakistan, and Colonel Randiek is also part of the people who are overseeing this, and that's where he is headed now. Thank you very much, Colonel, for your time this morning. We would like to see Kenya get back there, and yes, a story that I'd like to tell you about Colonel Randiek. He's played against Pakistan at a 60,000-seater hockey stadium in front of the then Pakistan President Ziaul Haq.
Ziaul Haq.
And you drew 1-0.
We drew 2-2.
2-2.
Yeah.
And we would like to see Kenya get back there, where Kenya was a top 4 nation in the world, was at the Olympics until 1988. That's where we'd like to see the game get back to Colonel.
Thank you very much, and that is what we are looking forward to.
All right. Well, Colonel Randiek will now be leaving, and next we shall be speaking athletics. On Saturday morning, Peres Jepchirchir broke the women's only world record in the half marathon in Prague, and that mark is her second world record. To break it down, we'll be speaking with one of the coaching staff of at Athletics Kenya, Coach Stephen Mwaniki. Is going to be breaking that down, and also what went down in Brussels at the Diamond League after this short break.
With the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Say all kind of things about you.
We them on. Shake up. Need to mush you and done to mush you. When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times.
Full 180. Crazy.
Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bop.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Get the party more.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Tekenya katoto, kamini tekenya, tekenya.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
May you be victorious. I believe you will leave me spellbound by your performance.
Certainly.
I know whom you're looking for, but Siamak is not here. But I'm sure that he will be here to witness his friends and brothers' victory for sure.
I had told you before, Queen Mother. Siamak would get his right only by snatching it. I don't know why you are not doing anything about it.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I will sleep when I'm dead.
Don't you dare tell me how to heal my daughter, Wanjala.
So all this while you never loved any of us? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
And why are you so bothered anyway? Isn't your rich Ugandan tycoon enough for you?
I loved all of you. Tulia.
Jimmy. Nataka ule Jimmy alikuwa anani push hard, unaona?
Lazima usikize akili yako na mwili wako.
Hakuna tumbaya na akili yangu na mwili yangu. I need you to push me.
Jimmy, hebu kuja hapa haraka saa hizi ama nikuue.
And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. I am Daniel Wahome. A very good morning to you. It's a day when, as usual, the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union are giving their briefing. Migori Youth speaking about their governor, Okoth Obado, a mass demolition in Mombasa, and updates from also across the country. Kisumu, we've got our reporter Simon Achola, and we also are going to have some focus on the reproductive health bill. Plus, remember the daily updates on the COVID-19 situation in the country. That's part of what we are looking at through our news team that is out on the ground, and we shall be joining them throughout the program as they cover various events across the country. Our sign language interpreter, Susan Tuku. We get into the second part of our conversation, and this is athletics, and with Coach Stephen Mwaniki. Coach, a very good morning to you.
Morning to
well, it was quite a weekend, actually a very great Saturday morning for Kenya when Peres Jepchirchir, they were in Prague and they were running at the half marathon. It was known as the Prague Restart, but it was on a course that was about 1.2 kilometers long, 16 and a half times around that course. And for Coach Stephen, this is something that we're also going to see at the London Marathon, where they're going to run at St. James's Park, and it's going to be, I think, about 19 times around it before going to the usual finish line. The whole aspect of having a half marathon run on a circuit basis, how do you find that concept at the moment as sport returns?
Yeah, it is tiresome and it's a bit tricky because the athletes are used to running on a flat course, maybe going up and down a hill, and this one is just a flat course, and then going round and round for 16.5 laps. It's not an easy task. And it's due to the prevailing conditions of COVID-19, which has really messed athletics world. But we thank God that we are back, and we are doing anything possible to ensure that athletics is back to where it belongs. And this was quite a spectacular event in Prague.
And now let's talk about Peres Jepchirchir. An interesting story about Peres Jepchirchir. When she set the world record 2 years ago, she was 1 month pregnant, and she did that, and that was at Ras Al Khaimah. The world record was later broken by it was later broken, and she's got now the women's only world record. Putting it into context, this is where the women ran specifically. That's why it's separate from 64:31, which is the overall women's world record in the half marathon. But for Peres Jepchirchir, coming back 2 years later, 1 hour 5 minutes 34 seconds, it was, the conditions were cool for the women's race. Take a look at that run and how you see Peres perform in that event.
Yeah, Peres is one of the top athletes in the country, and she proved to the world that it's not only the high-tech shoe of Adidas, but it depends with the person who is running on that shoe. And that is what Eliud Kipchoge keeps telling everybody, that the Ferrari, they use one type of tire, but it depends with the driver. So with Peres, that was something that we expected her to perform. And you know, she's so talented, and she's such a hardworking woman, and this was expected from her. And doing 65 along the loop, 16.5, which was unusual, was quite spectacular.
Let me just take a look at how, every time you look at how she was running, at one point it was said that she was running too fast. She broke away about eight laps in. By the time 6 laps in, she was doing 3 minutes 50, and then suddenly slowed. She was within world record pace, and then suddenly slowed to about 4 minutes 3 for every lap of that course. How did that variation work towards the 65:34 she clocked?
Running a long distance, for example, if we look at what Cheptegei did, you could see the pacing. The pacing he was doing 60-60. And now for Paris, this was a different course. This was something quite challenging for her. So you could see the paces were not going the way she wanted it to be, because if you look at the first 10K, she did 30 minutes,
yes,
which 30 minutes for normal athletes who are running 10,000 or 10K is not easy. So she was in the form of her life. And now running the other part of the event, in fact, the last kilometers, that is where she started tiring. And this actually affected her performance. But if it was an even course whereby the athlete is aware of the course and the pacing and everything, then she could even do 64 something. But with the 65, that was quite challenging, and it was coming from her, it was expected.
You've mentioned pacing, and we're going to mention pacing quite a lot when it comes to this. She said that if she had somebody to pace her along until something like 13 kilometer mark, then she would have clocked under 65 minutes. And Brenda Jepleting was amongst those who were pacing. There was also who were supposed to pace that race. How did the pacing, how should pacing properly work, especially when you've got an athlete who can do such strong front running?
The purpose of pacing is to ensure that the athlete is able to clock the time that is required. The other thing also is to try and delay the lactic acid. You see, the accumulation of lactic acid, if it gets over you before you end the event, then you'll slow down incredibly, and it will affect your performance. So running this uneven pace, sometimes you run fast, sometimes you run slow, will definitely affect your performance at the end of it. So pacing is quite crucial. And if he had an opportunity of maybe it was a mixed race whereby maybe you have male athletes running in that event, she could have done even better than 65.
Now, the other thing is, and we'll be talking about this later, I looked at the distance that Sifan Hassan did in 1 hour, and it was 18.9 kilometers. And at 1 hour, Paris was at 19 kilometers. What kind of person would you want in front of Paris overall if this is the kind of pace that she can do?
Yeah, these were different scenario. You look at Sifan, she was running on a track which is 400 meters. Mm-hmm. And with 400 meters, before you accelerate, you have to run you accelerate 100 meters, you get a curve, you accelerate 100 meters. So it's different from this one, which maybe you run around 800 meters to get a curve.
Uh-huh.
Then another 800 meters, you get a curve. This one is a bit faster, the ones on the road. And with the new technology whereby they are bringing in good shoes, which are being used by the athletes, then it is possible now to run faster, even to run faster than what you see on the track. So these were different scenarios. So you could expect different speed on these different courses. And for Paris, she was fast. She was pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other is Paris, and overall, Brenda Jepleting taking second place at the Prague half, 1 hour 7 minutes 7. Dorcas Kimeli 1 hour 7:14, and Edith Chilimo fourth in 1 hour 7 minutes 16, and Sheila Chepkurui 1 hour 7 minutes 37. Under 68 minutes overall for 5 of the Kenyans. Your take on the general outlook? It was basically a Kenyan show, I would have to say.
Yeah, we are the best in long distance, especially the half marathons and the marathon. If you look at the world ranking, you'll find Kenyans in the top 50s, and you'll have almost 3/4 of the athletes in top 50s are Kenyans in half marathon or even in full marathon. Yeah.
So also in Prague on Saturday, Kibiwot Kandie, the man who won the National Cross Country Championships early in the year, he clocked 58 minutes 38 seconds to win the men's race. It was an improvement of 20 seconds on his time. But in the men's race, they were supposed to attack the world record, 58.01, that was set in Copenhagen, at the Copenhagen half marathon by Jeffrey Kamworor last year. But the conditions just turned out to be crazy. You start at 20 degrees, half an hour into the race, the entire course is already, you could tell that the temperatures were up to something like 22 or 23. Kandie's running conditions, how difficult were they for him?
Yeah, the conditions were difficult. But you see, Kandie, Kibiwot Kandie is a new kid on the block. You remember during the national cross country, there was that controversial result.
Yes.
Whereby there was this claim that
Kamworor was sent shopping before being told to get back onto the course.
Kamworor was sent on the wrong side, and Kandie won this event. You see, the pressure that Kandie put during the national cross country created all this confusion. And this was a new guy coming in, and he's proving that this guy is there he will be among the top Kenyan athletes that we depend on. And coming from the cross country and also running the half marathon, this is a kind of scenario I've been seeing with Paul Target. You see, Paul Target, the legend, used to run the cross country, and then he goes for this
track.
major event like the Stramilano half marathon and all that, and then he goes back to the track. And Kandie can do the same, and we'll be having another Paul Target, though he's from the armed forces, the same discipline, and with the push, and even those who are handling him, and with this new technology, I think this is a guy who will be able to stop Cheptegei, because now for Kenyans, everybody's thinking about Cheptegei, but I can bet on Kandie Kibiwot. He should not dwell so much on the road race, but he can do like Paul Target. Run the cross country, go to road race, and then come back to the track. So that is possible. So with Kandie, we are going places.
All right. And let me mention this. 2 half marathons in 1 year in under 59 minutes. And first, the Ras Al Khaimah half. That's where he clocked 58.58, goes into the cross country. I know this has been there. But the one interesting thing is a young man known as Bravin Kiptor, who was pacing him before he broke away at the 10-kilometer mark. And Bravin kept running and finished in 1 hour in 61:23. So the question, Bravin being Ronex Kipruto's younger brother, how then does the pacing work until 10 kilometers and you're able to hold on to a good pace and eventually, win this race, and by a margin of what, about almost 1.5 minutes?
Yeah, pacing is everything. Pacing is everything, and also the condition. The condition, the prevailing condition whereby Kibiwot and his colleagues were subjected to was a bit tough for them, because already the temperature was rising. So it was not possible for him to be able to run fast. But given the right condition, I think this is a man who can bring it under 58. Yeah, it's good.
One person who, Bernard Kimeli, finishing in 61 flat, he was almost considered the pre-race favorite, having, given his previous exploits in Prague. Your take on his performance on that day? Because when Kandie broke away, then he was alone, with a lead of 1 minute 16 seconds as the race progressed.
I can say it was a bad day in office for him, because Kandie also is a good long-distance runner, and things were not working for him.
Kimeli,
yes. He was not a good. He's not a good distance. He's a good long-distance runner, but it was not his day in Prague. Yeah.
All right. Then let's talk about something else that happened Friday. The Brussels Diamond League meeting. Faith Kipyegon 2:29.92, and this was in the women's 1,000 meters. She was supposed to make an attack on the world record of 2:28.98 that was set in 1996 by Svetlana Mastakova of Russia. She did not make it. Talk about this 1,000-meter race, because it was a real heartbreak for Faith. In Monaco, she missed the world record by 0.17 of a second, and by her own admission, she wasn't aware how close she was.
Yeah, also for Faith Chepngetich, you see the pacing and having competitive runners. She was alone, all alone. The last 400 or 600 meters, she was alone. If you look at the 800, if you look at the results of the Kenyans last year, check how many athletes have been able to run 800 under 2 minutes. There are very few, but she was able to pass 800 in 1:59. That shows that she's in a good shape. And if she had good athletes pacing and running with her for maybe the last 300 meters, then you could have seen the world record. But it's soon coming. It's coming.
It's one thing that was mentioned is her second. Is the 400 meters. Because in the 1,000 you start basically at the 200. You do the 200, and it was the first 400. A question was asked: was it too fast, or did the pacing go wrong?
Yeah, the pacing wasn't right for her. Because you see, as I had told you earlier, the secret here is to try and delay the lactic acid. Lactic acid will catch up with you, but you have to delay it. Make sure that it catches you the last meters, not 400 meters to go or 300 meters to go. Maybe the last 50 meters, and you'll be able to fight, because that willpower of a human being will be able to overcome the lactic acid. But once it comes in, once it gets in, then it's like you're carrying a bag of cement on your back, running the last 100 meters. So if the pace is wrong, then it's not possible to get it. It's the same thing like what Cheruiyot did the first Diamond League.
Yes, in Monaco.
In Monaco.
Where he did what? It was 52 seconds for the first 400 meters.
Yeah. So those kinds of paces, you need to work on it, and that is what the coaches normally do in training. You find athletes on the track trying to get their pace correct. So once you are able to synchronize everything, then it's possible to get the record. But for Faith, I'm sure she'll break it one of these fine days.
Now, the other thing that I would like to bring about is the mental strength of our athletes and the awareness when they are on the track, especially when it comes to times. The steeplechase world record was missed by 0.01 of a second. At times when you mention that, it sounds unbelievable. There was a case of Faith. She did admit she didn't know it. The question is, as compared to Cheptegei, Cheptegei actually even had the audacity to stop his watch when he was breaking the world record, which means he was aware of what was going on to the very last moment. How do you handle this final 200 meters mentally, because that's where you'd see the athletes kick as they go for the line?
It's very crucial. Every part of every part of the race plan is very important. The execution is very important. If the execution is not right, then you'll end up missing the record. And to break a record is not easy. And once you miss it, it's not easy to go back and do it. So you need to synchronize everything. You need to work, even talk to the athlete. And this is a scenario whereby the coaches are very important. You see athletes going overseas without their coaches. The people who have been training them here in Kenya, it's not good, because they are the ones who will be able to give them the right information, give them the direction, so that they'll be able to get the set pace correctly and get the record right. Yeah.
And in this case, what needs actually to be done to engage the athlete representative and the coach, because it's an athlete-coach relationship is so personal. How much more, for example, from the coaching side, are you trying to do so that this happens?
You need to engage the athlete up to the last moment when they are going to the dressing room, whereby you make sure that the athlete gets the information, the correct information, and be able to deliver what you've been able to work on, and the workouts and everything. Whatever you've been giving the athlete, this is what is supposed to be worked into until the final moments of an event.
All right. Coach Stephen Mwaniki, he is a sprint coach, breaking down the performance of the Kenyan athletes over the weekend. Well, right now we'll be moving over to the courts, and Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko is having his case there, and it looks like the prosecution wants the accused to take a fresh plea. The defense has opposed that. Sarafina Robbie is our reporter there. Let's listen into the proceedings that are going on at the court.
Yes, in fact, that's the document I want to get. 26th of February. Yes. If you look at that document, Your Honor, you will see that it was just confirmation of receipt of documents, not confirmation, as is alleging, that parties agreed that will be supplied with the redacted statements 24 hours before the hearing. That document that you're looking at, which I also have a copy of here, does not have any submissions to that effect, Your Honor. So we still leave it to this court to give directions because there was no agreement.
What about item C?
Item C, yes. Count by count. The prosecution indicated they would rely on all documents for all the counts.
Next.
Then the resolutions as agreed by defense counsels, prosecutors, and investigators.
That's what I want to look at. Just give me a minute.
Yes. They precisely.
Just go on. Mr. Luka,
yes.
anything before I read my story?
Yes. So Your Honor, really, the point that would like brought forward to this court is the fact that this particular charge sheet, I think the court has directed that we issue directions on that.
Yes.
Really, I don't need to
about the charge.
I will not go into that. So I then will leave to the court.
Well, that is Advocate Cecil Miller, who is the defense attorney for Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, who is facing corruption charges, and the state has introduced a new charge sheet, and it has been amended, and there is a new charge of abuse of office, and they are appearing before Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti. So the Director of Public Prosecution says they are not disclosing any new documents, and there are 20 witnesses, some of them who are under protection, and at this stage they are not offering any plea bargains. So that's the case, and that's happening at the courts. Our reporter at the court is Sarafina Robbie. Well, we continue with our conversation in athletics, and there is a change in our sign language team, and the person you see at the bottom right of your screen is Simon Karodha, who is going to be with us throughout this hour. Let's get back to the conversation, and it was quite an interesting night in Brussels when the 1 hour record was put under attack. This record had stood for 12 years in the women's event, and also the 13 years for the men. Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands, that battle with Brigid Kosgei. By the way, Brigid was disqualified after it was found out later that she had stepped out of the track. She's more of a road runner, so but she was there. It was quite close for her. Sifan Hassan doing 18 kilometers, 930 meters, and this is within 1 hour, a race where the gun goes twice at the start and at the end. How powerful now is Sifan Hassan? We saw her win the 1500 and the 10,000 meters at the World Championships in Doha, which people found absolutely bizarre given the the spread of distance. How do you break down this 1 hour attempt with Eva Chirono doing 18 kilometers, 341 meters, and Lorna Chemutai, 18.5 km?
Yeah, endurance is everything. And this is what has proven to all the coaches know that those who are in endurance event, you have to build your endurance to be able to run fast in these other events. And you've seen that Sifan winning the 1500, that combination, and 10,000 meters. So she's kind of special, unique. in these long races.
Okay, we'll be coming back to that conversation, but let's go back to the court where Advocate George Kithi, who is also part of the of Governor Mike Sonko's defense team, is speaking at the moment as new charges are introduced against Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko.
For hearing adequately and to compare that information with feedback from our clients. That is a heavily interactive process, taking into consideration the voluminous documentation that will be comparing and linking the statements of the documents that were that information with the various documents for the relevance of the various documents or relation thereto. So we propose that that is the adequate information at the minimum within which we can interact with all the voluminous documents, be ready for cross-examination and proceeding, as well as consult with the clients.
Anything else for this one?
That's it.
Let me also repeat this. Are you offering liberty?
I think for purposes of because you've asked.
They are considered in the trial.
Yes.
Any offer?
For now, we are going to.
Anything else? Yes.
Except for the special protected to allow us to prepare for cross-examination.
Well, those are the proceedings at the Milimani Law Court, and that was Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti, who is presiding over the case against Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko, where a charge of abuse of office has been introduced, and the advocates for Mike Sonko are trying to plead their case, saying that they need more time to understand the new charge, but the defense says, and also try to create a plea bargain, but the Directorate of Public Prosecutions says there are no offers for plea bargain in this case. Sarafina Robi will be giving us that report in our subsequent bulletins. We continue with our conversation around athletics, and it was about the 1 hour max that was set. We've spoken about Sifan Hassan, who set the new world record, which is 18,930 meters, 18.93 kilometers in 1 hour, and that was at the Memorial Van Damme in Brussels, and that beat the previous existing record of 18.517 kilometers set by Ethiopia's Jireh Tune in 2008, an improvement of 400 meters. That is an entire lap on that track, given that they were basically running in circles. Then looking at it, the concept of time trials vis-a-vis distances, how would this work in athletics?
Athletics is trying to reduce the TV time on this main circuit, and that is why you've tried to get rid of the 10,000. That is why they've gone down. Even the 5,000 is rarely run because of the time that it takes for somebody to run such event. But this was unique because we are in impossible time, whereby now anything goes. You saw the pole vault being held where? Outside.
In the streets.
In the streets. Yeah? And you could see guys doing up to 6 or 7. So we need to come up with things that will entice athletics to make it more enticing to the public, and be able to make sure that the athletes also get their time to prove that they are the best in the world. And with Sifan from Netherlands, she's incredible. You can't be able to peg where she belongs, because running 1500, running 10,000, and even running
a half marathon.
A half marathon, that is 18 kilometers, 0.93 in 1 hour. That is incredible. So her training, I sometimes I try to think about her training. I don't figure it out, but she's in a class of her own.
Let's move on. And Mo Farah of Great Britain, he was running against a Belgian athlete who's known as Bashir Abdi, and he did 21.33 kilometers in 1 hour, and the previous mark set in 2007 by Ethiopian great Haile Gebrselassie was 21.285 kilometers, which is technically the distance of a half marathon. Abdi doing 21.322 kilometers. The Mo Farah show, as people said, and again, this is where I want to come in and again speak about the pacing, about how that pacing was done to a point where he broke off and was able to sustain the run till he did 21.33 kms.
Yeah, he was lucky because he used his training partner. He was running with his training partner who was able to pace him at the correct pace. They needed to stick to a certain pace to be able to break the record. And remember, this record belonged to a great man, Haile Gebrselassie. So to break it, he had to work round the clock and try to get the right paces for that event. The other thing is that this is a rejuvenation of Mo Farah. We had started writing him off, and I think his life is more on track, not on road. Though he decided to go to road races, try his luck in marathon, but it has never been good for him to be on the road circuit. So those who are handling him should bring him back on the track, because people like him running on the track, see him running on the track, and that was important. So this was a good indication that Mo Farah, though being 37 years, he is now back on the fold.
Well, mentioning about Mo Farah on the roads reminds me of the 2016 World Half Marathon Championships. I think Jeffrey Kamworor and Bidan Karokin know what they did to Mo Farah. He says he's never felt that. I think his glory has come in the London Big Half. That's where he's won the event. And overall, looking at it from the men's side, this kind of time trials as compared to what we have from the women, how much more how do you get an athlete now to get into a time trial mode? Because it's now not about a designated finish line. This is more about hearing the gun for the second time.
Yeah, during the training, they were doing more paces on the track and trying to get the right pace. And for them to be able to break that record, it was just the workouts that they were doing. I was talking to Coach Oum, and he told me he shared a few moments with Cheptegei, and he ended up showing him the book. He was what he was writing down, and he said what Cheptegei was doing in Uganda in training is what actually he had broken his record in Uganda, so he went there to prove it. So for you to break a record, and this is important to athletes, it doesn't come easy. You have to do it in training. You do all the paces, get the correct pace, and then it will replicate itself on the event where you are going to show the world what you are made of. And that is very important.
Well, when it comes to this long distance running, because I've witnessed sessions, where the coaches are and everything, they've got about 3 or 4 stopwatches, and they're doing the splits for everyone as, they do the sessions on the track that are there. This little fine data, the question is, how then do you try transmit it back to the athletes? I'd spoken with Daniel Komen, he's the greatest man on the track. He may not have that huge medal cabinet, medal and trophy cabinet from huge competitions, but his performances on the track are up there. He said, you've got to keep doing math. Do your calculations as you run. how do you then move this data that you collect in coaching and, place it on the track?
Yeah, during the training, that is where everything happens. And doing the correct pace, making sure that the athlete is able to do the correct pace. The pace work is very important. Everything is synchronized. Once you will be able to get the correct pace, then everything will be okay. When you come for an event of such magnitude, you'll be able to get the record. And that is why it was so easy for Mo Farah and Sifan talking about breaking the record, because they know what they've been doing in their training, the pace work and everything. So it is easier to do that. This is like synchronizing. You have to synchronize. Your leg must be able to, if you want to run like, let's say Cheptegei, doing 60 seconds per lap, 60 seconds, 60. If it slips, it's 61. That's very important. And that is whereby a coach comes in. If you don't have a coach, then it becomes difficult.
So, talking about coaches, I know you are all busy. We're 3rd of October, Continental Gold, the Kip Keino Classic in Nairobi, and preparing athletes for that event. There's going to be the national program, and then there is also the Continental Tour Gold program. So, how are you, getting athletes ready so that the qualification marks are met at about at least I think this weekend, before basically the selection process is done?
We are trying our level best. Just remember that we are coming from very awkward situation whereby athletes have been training on their own, no supervision. The supervision is minimal. You communicate through WhatsApp and all that. So this time round, we are trying to bring our athletes now to their rhythm, to their correct rhythm. And that is why you can, if you look even in the Diamond Leagues, you could see there are athletes who are on top of the world, the others, the bigger number is lagging behind, is basically out. So this is the challenges that we've been encountering. But we are trying to push our athletes to be able to reach that level that they are required to be able to run on come the Kip Keino Classic.
Okay. Something else I'd like to mention, tomorrow at the Ostrava, the Golden Spike, you're a sprints coach, and so I want to mention 2 events. One, 150 meters. This is going to be, yes, in the men's and the women's race, there's going to be 150 meters. Just try and explain this unusual distance on a track.
So this is where the tire meets the rubber. 150 meters is for those who
the rubber meets the road.
The rubber meets the road.
Yes.
150 meters is for those who run. For 200-meter runners, this is a sprint. This is a speed session. It's like it's a speed endurance. And for 100-meter runners also, this is whereby they will be able to check whether their speed endurance is okay. So this is where they meet, these two cadres of athletes, those who run 100 meters and those who run 200 meters. For 200 meters is like speed for them. And for 100 meters is speed endurance. So it's an odd event, but it's good for part of preparation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, the other one, and this is the last one I'd like you to touch on, the world record in the 400-meter hurdles. It stood for 28 years, set by Kevin Young in Barcelona 92, 46.78 seconds. Karsten Warholm is the man who was going for that record. In Stockholm, he clocked 46.87. He missed it after stuttering at the last hurdle. He's running tomorrow in the Czech Republic, Ostrava, the Golden Spike meeting. Will this world record go?
Yeah, it will go definitely. Because Warholm is in the shape of his life. He has done 47.1 this season. He's been able to run 46, and now he's going for another 46. It's possible for him. The only thing is that they need to get going over the hurdles correctly, because you remember the last hurdle.
Yes.
While he was running the last event, the last hurdle is one which messed him up. But I think Warholm, if there's anybody to break it, it's Warholm, because he has really worked hard. He has really pushed himself. We were able to witness him running 400 meters hurdles, and then later on, after 1 hour, he did 400 meters.
And won. In 45.
In 45. So it shows the guy, his speed endurance is okay. He has everything that it takes to break a record. So it's just a matter of time and the perfect timing, the right condition, you'll get it.
You say he has no competition, but where then do we place then how then would you describe the absence of Rai Benjamin and Abderrahman Samba in the 400-meter hurdles?
Yeah, that is where
because that's the only competition he has.
Yeah, those were the guys who would have offered him a tight competition, and I don't know whether they have been training. You know, with this COVID, you never know whether some of the athletes they have decided to opt not to run this season, maybe prepare for next year's Olympics. So you've seen many top athletes, especially the sprinters, missing out in these events that we've been able to see. But with Wahom, you see, if you are in shape, it doesn't matter. So long as you get your correct paces, get everything right, you'll be able to break the record. And I wish him luck because he has really tried. He's really worked hard for him to be where he is right now.
Coach Stephen Mwaniki, he is our athletics pundit, giving us a breakdown of what went down over the weekend. Peres Jepchirchir breaking the women's only world record, 65:34 in a half marathon in Prague. Kibiwot Kandie winning the men's race, 58:38, and also the 1 hour mark set by Mo Farah and Sifan Hassan. And also Kipyegon winning the 1,000 meters in Brussels. And a look ahead at tomorrow's Diamond League meeting in the Czech Republic. We're talking about the Ostrava Golden Spike. Wow. Actually in Poland, so we'd like to say to take a little break from now. When we get back, we'll be discussing football. We'll be joined by Gregory Mulemi, our regular analyst, and Aldrin Nsubuga, who's going to give us more on that. Coming up next.
As it is, and in the counties, are yet to benefit from what we negotiated and agreed upon. And on this, I'm talking about, specifically in the University and Ministry of Health, the payment of enhanced clinical allowances. That is the call and the risk allowance. And this pandemic has actually shown that the doctors at the Ministry of Health, whether in policy position or in clinical positions, have come out and given their best 24 hours round the clock. In fact, those at the policy position at the Ministry of Health were the ones manning and running the quarantine facilities in the initial phases of this pandemic. So you cannot have doctors at the Ministry of Health, some getting up to 80,000 less than their counterparts, and they're all doing the same job. That is discrimination that we can no longer continue allowing as a norm. We have also seen several industrial actions as a result of failure to operationalize and implement the CBA in the counties and even at national government levels. With that said, the only solution to a standardized and centralized management of human resources for health is the creation of a Health Services Commission. And as we said, this shall bring and unite all healthcare workers, unions, associations. If you remember, in November 2019, we all came together and made that declaration that we shall fight for a Health Services Commission, so that for once, human resources for health are taken with the seriousness that it deserves in this country. On universal health coverage, which has also been and continues to remain a key agenda in this country, we have seen in the rollout employment of doctors, healthcare workers on inferior and poor terms to their counterparts. Yet the duties they perform are the same. The contracts that have been laid out do not mirror the work done. And one thing that is very important is that UHC has guiding principles and pillars as per the WHO and UHC 2030 agenda. And this pillar is that human resources for health remain the drivers for the UHC agenda. You can buy equipment, you can build hospitals, but if you do not take care of the human resources for health, then there will be no UHC. It will continue being a dream. So the focus has to now shift from procurement to human resources for health. And without the requisite HRH skill mix, it shall be a pipe dream to achieve universal health coverage. That is free advice that we are giving, and we have given even before the launch of the pilot projects. With that said, we as KMPDU have made the following resolutions. 1, that the establishment of a Health Services Commission is paramount to achieving universal health coverage. And it shall be the one that shall resolve and standardize and harmonize all these terms and conditions of work, and including implementation of the CBAs across the country. The final resolution made, because of the persistent failure and lackluster approach to address the HRH challenges that have been endemic in the health sector and worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, we as KMPDU have resolved to consult and mobilize the wider KMPDU membership for industrial action if these challenges will remain unresolved. And I'd like to say this. Remember, initially we said that we had put this off the table, but we have now brought it on the table. It is there, it is a possibility, and we will do it if no one addresses the challenges that we have raised for the past 6 months. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Yes. We have had engagements, especially over the last 2 weeks, and we still have engagement for the next 2 weeks. I think that will make a month of consultations and engagements. And at that point, if nothing forth would have come out of the engagements, then that would be the last option for us. I think that is clear. I think I've answered your question. Any other question? Yes. Yes. Yeah. So the issue of the curve, there was an advisory given by the World Health Organization Kenya office last week. There's the challenges of testing. Those who are being tested, are they high risk or low risk? There's of course the issue of major tests being conducted in Nairobi, Mombasa, and the counties around Nairobi. And our testing capacity in the counties is yet to be optimal. So we have had suboptimal testing in the various parts of the country. So if you look at the curves and what's contributing to the number of cases, it is now becoming increasingly clear that the cases are now beginning to rise in the other counties that did not have a high disease burden. So that remains a situation to be monitored, and focus needs to shift now to the other areas. But equally, we know out of our own sickness and interaction with Kenyans that a good number of Kenyans cannot afford the tests, and so also a good number of Kenyans are getting the disease and staying at home and nursing themselves at home. So there are also unreported cases of COVID-19.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
May you be victorious. I believe you will leave me spellbound by your performance.
Certainly.
I know whom you're looking for. But Siamak is not here. But I'm sure that he will be here to witness his friends and brothers' victory for sure.
I had told you before, Queen Mother. Siamak would get his right only by snatching it. I don't know why you are not doing anything about it.
And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. I am Daniel Wahome. Our sign language interpreter is Simon Karotha. We get into the third part of our conversation this morning, and it is about football, and we'll be taking a look at some of the transfer moves being made in the Kenyan Premier League. We'll also be taking a look at transfer moves in Europe, and also the weekend, the 4 days of football that we had that was about the UEFA Nations League and how the outlook for the European national teams is as they head towards what should have been Euro 2020, but is now Euro 2021. And to do that, we've got our regular analyst on my immediate left. We've got Gregory Mulemi. Gregory, a very good morning to you.
Morning to you.
And making his debut on this table, Aldrin Nsubuga. Welcome, Aldrin.
Thank you.
Well, let me just get straight down to this. Gregory, I want to start at home with the Kenyan Premier League, some of the transfer deals. I'll look at clubs. Gor Mahia first. They signed Julius Ulimwengu from Burundi, and AFC Leopards were also going for Julius Ulimwengu. And also, they've got Benson Omala. He has also done a move from Western Stima to Gor Mahia. Basically, half of Western Stima is at Gor Mahia, the other half
is at Wazito.
So, these transfer moves that have been made by Gor Mahia, let's start with them.
I think they're just trying, they've lost so many players during this window, and they're just trying to replace the team that was there, the team that won the just ended Kenya Premier League season. And you look at how they've done their business, they've gone for young blood. We were talking about some of the players like Andrew Numero last week. These are young players who have been given long-term contracts at Gor Mahia. It's not something that we've been used to in the recent past. But right now they're changing their approach in the market. Their transfer activities now focuses on boys between 21 years and 25 years. These are young players who can help them, let's say if they're not going to win titles this time, but stabilize that team. Because most of these players that have been there at Gor Mahia, most of them have been around 26, 27, let's say to 30 years old. And you find that most of them sign at most a 1.5 year deal.
That's a long-term deal in Kenya.
That's a long-term deal in Kenya, to be honest. And you find that most of them go for free when, let's say, it happens. Look at Joash Onyango. He went for free to Simba. Kahata left for free. You look at such players who left Gor Mahia over the last couple of years. Even Olunga, I think he went for free.
Olunga was Liberty. He was forever on loan wherever he went. At Thika, at Tusker, and also at Gor Mahia before he went abroad.
Yeah, you look at Mapigano going back to Tanzania to play for Azam. He's gone for free. Balinya has left Gor Mahia for free. So you find that most of these players haven't signed deals that can bring back money to the club. And I think it's something that the Krachir and company are trying to change. And you look at the signings, they give a player, let's say, 4 years contract. Maybe he can appreciate in value so that if a suitor comes, then they come with the best price.
Sofapaka, interesting signings. They've picked Kevin Omondi, former Wazito goalkeeper, Roy Okal, former Mathare United midfielder, and Michael Bodo, from a defender from Kariobangi Sharks. What's behind John Baraza's,
very smart, here? Very smart. You look at these players being recruited by Sofapaka. These are players, I can say they're above average players. You look at Roy Okal, has really had a good season at Mathare United. Kevin Omondi, I think he just had a bad time at Wazito Football Club, because you look at his record at Sony Sugar, he was one of the best keepers in the country. Sometimes he was even being touted to be the one to replace Arnold Origi or Matasi as Kenya One before he switched move to Wazito. I think something just happened. Maybe it just clogged his mind. He couldn't just realize his potential. And you look at the likes of Bodo. Bodo is one of the best defenders we've had in the league the last 3 seasons, coming to Sofapaka to join the likes of Jacobs. It will be a stone at the back. And Mike Mururi being a former player, John Baraza also being a former player, they know the kind of players they need in their system. And these signings, I think Sofapaka is doing one of the best businesses around.
Now, on local transfers, Nairobi City Stars promoted from the National Super League, but quite also an interesting set of players they've picked. They've signed Eric Ombija from Gor Mahia, and goalkeeper Elvis Ochoro from Hakati Sportif, that's regional league, Roland Makati from Vapor, and Timothy Ouma from Laser Hill Academy.
Wow, this is tricky, because you look at City Stars, I can say they still have a huge, I can say they have huge potential, because you look at the squad right now. They decided to renew contracts of most of the key players from last season. You look at the likes of Muki, you look at the likes of Agesa. These are players who really help City Stars stabilize in the run to being promoted back to the Kenya Premier League. Right now, they are going for these young players because they know that these are players who will succeed the current crop of experienced players in the team. And you look, they lost a player like Chumsi, Kevin Omondi, who signed for Wazito. That was one. I think that's one of the best right backs in the country right now. But right now, they're bringing a kid from Laser Hill. Same, like a like-to-like replacement. It's not happening anywhere in Kenya, because it shows you that the scouting department at City Stars has more eyes compared to those guys who just think, okay, let me just be honest, Western Stima is the place to go for players.
Well, Western Stima at the moment, it's being raided by two clubs, Gor Mahia and Wazito. So they'll have to do a lot of replacement at the moment. Players were out of contract. Let's go across borders now, and I bring in Aldrin. Aldrin Spuga, the UEFA Nations League, and this is as it is right now, getting into its second season. First of all, the outlook of this format where teams are categorized by how strong they are. So here you are, you've got a club, you've got the likes of Germany, Spain, England are playing in the Group A, and right at the bottom, you've got these little islands, Malta, Faroe Islands, Gibraltar, San Marino, all those little countries playing in Group D of that competition. What has been the outcome of it, as from what we saw last year and now going into this season?
I think first and foremost, UEFA have been clever. Remember, this tournament comes in the wake of doing away with international friendlies that were always a problem to many nations. One of the disadvantages of the international friendlies was that the small countries, the little countries, never had a chance to play the big teams. That's why people were beginning to lose interest. And then again, if you look at the format that they are now using, 55 nations being grouped in 4 leagues, they cleverly went for League A, where the grouped teams are the strongest in Europe. What this was about was to ensure that there is a lot of interest in the UEFA nations. So if you have the France's, Italy, England, Netherlands, and all those strong European teams traditionally being grouped in League A, it means people are going to be willing, are going to be anxious to see how they're going to perform against each other. So at least in this format, you have a Netherlands versus Italy, for example, like today. You have Germany versus Spain. Fixtures like that are good for viewership and interest. Now, what this format does is, remember, at the end of the day, we must have a champion anyway. But beyond that, there are 4 teams which eventually will qualify for the finals of Euro 2024. 20 nations come through the normal competition, but then 4 will come through this particular setting. Now, that is the beauty, because it means there is now equal competition. When you talk of League B, League C, and League D, like you've said, where you have the small nations, at least they are competing against each other. Not the usual tournament where you have a San Marino having to suffer the wrath of France, and they will never be a chance, really. And that was the problem, really. But now, at least, even when they can't qualify through the normal route, through the UEFA Nations League, the San Marinos and whoever they can at least have a chance to say, let's compete. And if we are fair enough, at the end of the day, you'll have 2 or 3 so-called small teams qualifying for the eventual 2024 Euro Nations. So I think it's wise, it's clever, and I think it's good for football.
Let's now look at the results. Let's talk about, first of all, Germany, the former world champions. They drew 1-0 against Switzerland. That was yesterday. And in their opening game, another 1-1 draw with Spain. This is a German side that was playing without 8 Bayern players. Aldrin, your take on this German side?
A German side that, for me, is not supposed to be affected by the absence of 8 players. If we go for the German we all know traditionally, German is one such team that could put up as many as 3 teams and they could beat anyone 5 years ago. But ever since that 7-0 drubbing at the hands of Brazil, that World Cup, something happened. It really dented their pride, their confidence. They had to revisit everything from the grassroots. Now, it means they are taking time to put up teams again. So without their A team, it's very hard now to raise the B team. When they do that, they have young players. So I think that's what has happened, because Bayern, who now are champions of Europe, have had, I think, have the most number of players in the national team. Most of them have given a rest. Now, that was always going to affect them. I've watched them at the UEFA Nations, and you can clearly see, take out 1, 2, 3 players, they are almost a team now that is building. It's not the German we know, which is a bit unfortunate. But I also think it wasn't good for them to just let off all the Bayern players, because Spain has used 1 or 2 players who featured at the UEFA Nations. Yes. So for me, German, the results that we are seeing are not surprising. It looks like a team now that can only play with their A team available.
Now, let's talk about another nation in that group. Spain, 4-0 winners over the Ukraine. That was yesterday. And with that 1-1 draw, Gregory, your take on the Spanish side at the moment, La Furia Roja?
I think they're just realizing the potential they had. Right now, Luis Enrique has brought in, very young boys who are really trying to bring up the Spanish flair that we had during Vicente Del Bosco's time. But I was far much impressed by Ansu Fati's debut. 2 appearances for the national team, then scoring after 20 minutes. It was one hell of a goal. But then you look at his overall performance. He had 6 shots on target. He won a penalty. A very young boy from Barcelona, becoming the first, the youngest ever Spanish goal scorer in any European competitions in around 98 years. I don't know, 58 years. It's quite a long time. You look at the performances of the likes of Sergio Ramos. He's aging like wine. He's just getting better. He leads from the back. to the front, scoring 2 goals in that match. I think Luis Enrique is finally finding in that Spain side that we were missing in the recent past. And you look at how he's groomed this team. Well, he's brought in, long time it was a team that was dominated by Real Madrid, Barcelona, and then a few scraps from here and there.
One from Sevilla.
Yeah, one from Sevilla, and then Villarreal. You could see the likes of Marcos Senna coming in. But right now, you see a La Roja team that has players from Manchester City. We have players from Italy. We have players from Real Madrid and Barcelona being blended into one. And it's really, really working miracles for Spain. I think if they continue like this in this Nations League, beating Ukraine 4-0, that's a side coached by Shevchenko. And it has all that experience with the likes of Yarmolenko, the likes of Tomashuk. These are great, great players. But you look at how they were whitewashed by a very, I can call it an experimental Spanish side. It just shows you that right now, Enrique might be doing what Lopetegui never did when he took Spain to the World Cup.
Well, there's another team that I would like to mention, France, the world champions, 1-0 winners over Sweden. As for the French side, it's another side that probably would fall in the same class as Germany. I think in Spain, where they can have 2 or 3 teams, you can have France, 3 sets of teams, but they're all as good. Aldrin, France, where do you place them, the world champions at the moment?
I always feel when I watch France that they are playing in third gear. They are the only European team you get the feeling that if they want, they can step up. If they want, they can engage another gear. Even when they're playing, they have too much quality and their players have achieved so much. And ever since they started becoming world champions, everything about them changed in terms of psyche. And I don't know why. There are games like, for example, even at the Innova Nations, I feel they're almost playing like they know they are the team to beat. And that kind of underrating affects the quality of the football they're playing. Because they can play very good quality, they can play dour quality, just for the sake of a win, which they are doing right now. But for me, France, position by position, they can put 2-3 players together, and the team would still remain as strong. I've been a bit disappointed when I watch Mbappe right now and Griezmann. I don't know whether Deschamps is trying to get a completely new team and try to get them to play together. But what we know, for example, Mbappe can produce and the likes of Griezmann and all, they have so much flair, so much skill that it's missing out from the game. And I'm saying, what is it? What is the problem? Is it that they are still trying to find out the best positions and how to play these combinations? Because I want to see a French team that is living, not just with the potential of winning, but also the flair that really is in the kind of players they have. So France, for me, look too good, but they won 1 in the first game. They can win 3 when they want to. I just want to see them playing at their full potential. Just like Spain. Spain, once they get rolling, they will sweep you aside. France, they seem to be too arrogant, and that could affect them going forward.
Well, they say that it's a little bit of the French culture where they try to have that kind of arrogance and tell you, okay, we'll do it when we want, and they will argue about it and let you talk and talk. But at the end of the day, they deliver. Belgium, ranked top in the world at the moment, 2-0 winners over Denmark. Where do you see this Belgian side going? Because everyone thought that Russia 2018 was going to be a real good year for them. They were to deliver it. They had a side as good as the one they had probably from 86, I think. But where are they at the moment? Or Divock Origi's side?
I think they're just where they were. I don't think Belgium has really improved a lot, because you look at the crop of players they have. They have virtually every 2 players virtually filling each position perfectly. And you look at how they've been performing, it's like they just miss that killer element. And it means that when KDB is not in action, the whole of the Belgium national team is down, because right now they cannot really depend on Eden Hazard, who's not really had a good season at Real Madrid. Yeah, they are winning right now, but I look at them like a team that has potential. Maybe they just need a super coach, someone who can actually make these players winners, because they tend to do it with so much beauty. Look at how they play. They want to perfect everything, and it's not really working on them, especially when they reach the league, the latter stages. Let's say when they play in the cup competitions like the World Cup, the Euro Cup, and such competitions. For me, I think what they need is have those killer instincts, because you look at how they performed in Russia. They had a very good team. They swept aside the likes of England, who are already making those chance of it's coming home or something like that. But then when it mattered a lot, they just tripped. I think they need someone who's a coach. I can look at, I don't know, maybe they look at a former player. I was looking at the likes of the former captain who guided them in the previous World Cup in Brazil, just forgetting the name. But they need someone who can mentor them. You see, the way Ronald Koeman has brought back Holland into life, I think Belgium needs such a guy.
Can I just add more to Holland?
Yes.
Sorry, Belgium.
Yes.
I see a Belgium that looks like the Netherlands or the Holland of the 1980s, 1990s. Too much quality, but I think what Belgium lacks is the mentality. They are not, winning trophies is not in their DNA. They seem to have accepted that. In the 80s, when they were so good, they could sweep everything except going all the way to the final and win it. It still is the same problem. So for me, I don't really think it's a coach. I think it's a whole national team psyche that they've got to change and make them think and believe they're now good enough to become champions, either the world or Europe. If that can get into their mindsets, they actually can go all the way. Because just like you said, Russia was, you couldn't understand why they couldn't go all the way. And that's how they are, always playing well, but when it matters most, they crumble. So for me, I think it's a psyche. It's a psyche that, as a nation, they've got to work on, change and believe. And once that can happen, maybe they'll start winning.
But you see, they have winners. Look at Thibaut Courtois is a winner. Eden Hazard is a winner. Even the substitute, Mignolet, Origi, Kevin De Bruyne, all these are winners. I'll still argue that if they just find the right coach who can exhume, I think it's a line.
Yeah, but you see, as Belgium, as a nation, they've not won, and that's their problem. The problem is not where they come from, the clubs. It's the nation.
All right. So let's move on. Their neighbors, the Netherlands. There is a revival from this Dutch team, and their 1-0 win over Poland. And it looks like, hard work for such a Dutch side. But where are they headed now? Because we've seen a full change from the Dutch side that was playing 4 years ago.
For me, I think besides changing from the team that we've seen 8 years ago where they really were struggling, they've recovered the belief and the quality that they didn't have. I don't see much changing as far as going all the way to win things is concerned. They're still where they've always been, Holland. For me, I talked about the French arrogance, but I think the Dutch are even more arrogant. For the problem with the Dutch is they don't seem to be a nation that really, really wants to win that trophy. They seem to be a kind of, they have a culture of we are good and they're very good. And that's okay, and that's enough. If we can go out there and show what we have, it's good enough for us. I really think Netherlands is not going to change much in terms of will they win again? Can they win Euro 2021? Sorry, yeah, can they win that? Can they win? I don't think they can because they don't seem to be focusing on winning, just like maybe the same way that Germans or the Spaniards or Italians do. I think that's their problem still.
Aldrin Subuga is a football analyst and Gregory Mulemi is also a football analyst while giving us their insights on the UEFA Nations League. Let's move over to Bruce House in Nairobi where Migori youth are giving their views on the case that is facing their governor, Okoth Obado.
We never get back these resources that should be used to develop our county. For now, everything is down. There's no development. The party has taken its position. The MCA should be now let to now do their own work. They should do their role of oversight. Let them not be coerced. We will not sit down as Migori Youth Council to see what is happening within our county. We also want to say that the MCA should also not be involved in this gimmick that we are seeing. They are saying they are being intimidated. Who's intimidating them? They have been elected by the people of Migori, and they should take their charge. They should take their position and do their oversight. Let them not see every day, every morning, that MCs are telling us that they are being intimidated, that somebody is following after their lives. Who is following after your life? Who is this who is following after your life? Take a position. We are tired as the youth of Migori. We want service delivery. If we are not capable of delivering services, step aside. If you've been charged and you have been told to step aside, give us time because we want service delivery to the people of Migori. Right now, there's no jobs, And within this particular time, politicians want to use the youth, to divide the youth, to bring tension in Migori, because there's no job going on. People are looking for handouts. Are we going to sit down and wait for handouts in Migori County so that people can make a decision? I want to ask the youth of Migori, I want to ask the county government of Migori that move with speed, give us a result, let the county keep moving. Finally, there's a precedent that is being set in our county, in our counties. Once you fail the integrity test, the chapter 6 of the Constitution, let us see you just obey. If you cannot, if you've already been charged in a court, just obey. Obey the court orders. Stay away. If Mumbi Ngugi said that if you've been charged, step aside, let your case be investigated, and then if you are found to be clean, just come back and serve the people. What is tough? What is tough in that? What is tough? What is tough in that? Just stepping aside and waiting for the process, the due process to be served on you. When they find that you are clean, then just come back and serve. We also want to ask the party, don't drag the people of Migori into your issues. We respect the party, but if you've taken a position, go with speed, because we are now causing a lot of panic in the county. Go with speed. If you are the party and you are saying that ODM has taken a position on this, why are you wasting our time? Why are you showing a lot of gimmicks and a lot of shady shows? You have the right to do your mandate. Let us not keep on waiting and crying as the people of Migori for service delivery. I want to ask the people of Migori youth that stay calm. Let you not be used at this time. We are fighting a very big pandemic in the country right now that need all of us. And if we are going to be divided, and you know that Migori is also a border county, a lot of the coronavirus cases are being experienced in that county. So if we keep on going to start fighting about corruption, fighting about other issues, then our attention is going to be divided. The thing that we should be having right now is to fight the coronavirus in Kenya and in Migori County. So if our attention is now going to be divided to fight corruption, to fight this, we are saying that we don't want to get involved into that. Otherwise, the fourth estate, thank you very much. My name is Julius Omamba, and I talk on behalf of the Migori Youth Council, and I say bravo, 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 power.
The representatives of the Migori youth giving their, voicing their concerns about the state of affairs in Migori County, and this follows the accusations that have gone against their governor, Okoth Obado. There is a murder charge that's there, and then there is an anti-corruption case. So they're really concerned about service delivery. We'll be getting details of that. So time for us now to wrap this conversation around sport. We have got Gregory Mulemi and Aldrin Subuga. Gregory, I want you to talk about England, 1-0 winners over Iceland. This was basically a relief for them after what happened in France 4 years ago. But where do we see this England side going?
I don't know. Too many experiments by Gareth Southgate. Rotating the squad, I think, is trying to find the perfect balance. But you look at how they performed against Iceland. It wasn't really a convincing performance, but maybe one standout performer there was Raheem Sterling, who stood out above a very average team, let me be honest, because you look at the team, it was like they could have drawn that game, especially after that penalty missed by the home side. England, I think they just lack that character, just like we pointed out with Belgium, we pointed out with Netherlands. England are trying to do what Germany did. They forget that Germany have won the World Cup in the recent past. They won the last World Cup. England won in 1966.
The only one they've won.
Yeah, the only one.
And we're always reminded.
Yeah, so they also have lacked that mentality. And I think Gareth Southgate is trying too many experiments which are not really working well with the side, especially when it matters most. They might be winning too many matches, friendlies, the UEFA Nations League. But then when they reach in a place where they play the big boys, it becomes a problem.
All right. Aldrin, I want you to tell me about Portugal versus Croatia. It ended 4-1, but this is what you'd look out for in football. A Portugal side, despite winning the Euro 4 years ago, but everyone's asking, again then against a Croatia side that lost, at the World Cup final with all that depth of talent that they have. Where do you see these two teams?
They seem to be in the same category. Croatia suffering an age where they've had their best players have all aged at the same time. It's like the golden age of Croatia. So especially after their recent exploits at the World Cup, you want to see all those players coming to the end of their international careers probably at the same time. You don't see a future. They are going to have to rebuild. The same with Portugal. Obviously with Ronaldo, who has been their mainstay for so many years now, I don't see him being around for the next 2 or 3 years. They are now having to rethink and look at new stars coming from their team. But I think ever since that win, the European Cup win, and then they won the maiden UEFA Nations Cup as well, it's helped their psyche. They believe now they can go all the way. And I think unlike Croatia, they have too many young, good quality players. So for them, you can see a future. You can see a future beyond Ronaldo. Except beyond Ronaldo, I don't see them playing again to win. They don't have much of that in their team. But it's a team that has rebuilt well. They've worked on the mentality that they didn't have before. Now they are outside the brackets of Belgium and Holland. They are good enough to actually work on a team and think of winning in the future. So I think of the two, Portugal has a brighter future, but Croatia, they're going to have to go really, really back to rebuilding from scratch. But the UEFA Nations is an exciting tournament. It's available on StarTimes sports channels, and I just encourage people to continue watching.
Gregory, Mulemi, and Aldrin Subuga, thank you very much for being with us this morning, going into the afternoon on Sports Check, giving us our thoughts on football. I think the EPL start this week, so next week we'll talk about it, and let's wait for it. And if you want a conversation about the EPL coming back, well, join our sports team on Friday at 10 a.m. on Michirizi. They will give you a breakdown on that. From 11 a.m., they'll give you a full breakdown of what's going to be happening in the European leagues over the weekend. I am Daniel Wahome. Our sign language interpreter has been Simon Karoth. I want to say thank you very much to whoever to all those who put together this bulletin and made it successful. It's time for me to leave. Nancy Okware is coming in next with Tamrini.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development,